Welcome to our next lesson. This lesson is actually really special because it's all about you. This isn't so much about teams, it's more about you, the manager, and how you can make that team perform exceptionally. So let's take a look at this lesson's PowerPoint and begin to make you an amazing manager. So this lesson is called The Power of Small Wins. A lot of us are always looking for a huge gain, a big breakthrough, but actually what the research at Harvard University shows us, based on the research, is it's the small wins that add up to make a really big win. Watch how it happens and watch what you can do specifically to make it happen. So we'll be taking a look at research from Teresa Amabile and Stephen Kramer, and take a look at what they have discovered. They first looked at famous innovators, really famous people, like people that discovered the DNA chain. They also looked at ordinary workers, and they found out that they had three things in common. The first were they had similar emotions while they were working. They had similar motivators, things that kept them motivated, and they also had similar perceptions of how things were going, if things were going well or they weren't. So this is pretty interesting. You actually have the ability to make people famous innovators by tapping into ordinary workers. So the question is, how do we actually turn the extraordinary into extraordinary? It's called the progress principle. Now, of all the things that can boost your emotions, motivation, and perceptions during a workday, the single most important one is making progress in meaningful work, meaning every day you make a little bit of progress, but the work is meaningful. Now, the more frequently a worker experiences a sense of progress, if they feel that they're moving forward, the more likely they're going to be more creative and productive in the long run. So those small wins can actually make a really big difference in how they feel and how they perform. So our job as managers is to make them feel good. Now, the power of progress is actually fundamental to human nature. So how can managers understand this better and leverage that progress to boost motivation? Because all you have to do is make small progress. That's your job. Now, an interesting survey of managers asked them, what do you think motivates employees? The answers were a bit of a surprise. So here were the top motivators according to them: recognizing people for good work, giving them tangible incentives, giving them interpersonal support, giving them clear goals. All these are good answers. However, very few people listed progress as number one, and progress is actually the number one that we're looking for. You just need to make sure that there's little bits of progress every day. And we're going to show you how to do that. So this is your opportunity. You can motivate your employees, you can increase their well-being, and increase their creative output. So what managers need to understand is what nourishes that progress, and making sure that they understand what does the opposite so that you don't do that. So here's the manager's focus. Focus on progress is going to translate into concrete managerial actions. You're going to be given a progress checklist at the end of this lecture. It's also going to be your homework to make your behaviors habitual. Now, the first research we're going to look at was 15 years in the making. They looked at workers' diaries. These were their work diaries, not their personal diaries. And these were diaries done on complex work in organizations. And here are the central drivers of creative, productive performance. The quality of a person's inner work life during the day consisted of three things: their mix of emotions, good emotions, bad emotions, their motivators or lack thereof, and their perception of how things were going. So these are things like, how happy did they feel? How motivated were they by the intrinsic interest in the work? Were they just really interested in it? And then how positively did they view the organization? How positively did they view management? That's you, the team, their coworkers, as well as themselves. So all these were what they were looking at. So here are the central drivers: that you can push performance up to higher levels of achievement, or you do have the power to drag them down by doing the opposite of progress. So looking at more research, They did a 4-month study looking at a end-of-day email study. So at the end of the workday, they did an email study with a lot of people, and it was actually 12,000 diary entries. The multiple team projects were studied, lots of different people in industry. One study group was trying to create kitchen gadgets, kitchen utensils. Others were managing a product line. Another one was solving complex IT problems, but they all involved creativity. So they were surveying them for their emotions, their moods, motivation levels, perception of the work environment, any progress they were making in the work, and then any events that stood out during the day. So they looked at 26 project teams and 12,000 diary entries. And the goal of the study was to discover those states of inner work life and the workday events that correlated with the highest levels of creative output. And the good news is they found some. Some surprising discoveries for knowledge work, meaning you have workers that need to think about things. High pressure and fear, like fear of being fired for not doing well, did not enhance achievement, didn't work. It actually had an opposite effect. So pressuring people to think better, be more creative, it just doesn't work. Humans don't operate that way. So here's what did work better. People were more creative and productive when their inner work lives were positive. That was when they felt happy, they were intrinsically motivated by the work itself, they had positive perceptions of their colleagues and the organization, and you. And when they were in positive states of mind, they were more committed to their work and they were more collegial or friendly to those around them. So some more findings. Inner work life fluctuates wildly from day to day. Good day, bad day can follow each other. And performance fluctuated just as wildly in response to that. So inner work life impacts performance today. It also impacts the next day. So what can you do about that? What can you do to evoke positive or negative emotions? What can you do to improve motivation or improve perceptions? Well, all the answers actually lied in the diaries that they studied, and they discovered there were predictable triggers that inflated or deflated inner work life. So we're going to take a look at some best day diary entries. The number one contributor to a best day was any progress in the work done by the individual or the team. That was it. That was the number one, progress. The worst day diary entries was a setback where something went backwards. Now, a lot of this makes sense, but you'll see how powerful it is. So let's take a look at a chart of what happens on a good day. You'll notice on the left, the very tallest bar chart in black, by a factor of 6 to 1 on good days, 76% of the respondents had progress that day. Only 13% had setbacks. So by about 6 to 1, progress is going to outweigh those setbacks on a good day. Now, a few more definitions so that we can look at the rest of this chart are the word catalyst. A catalyst is anything that directly supports work. A catalyst is also help from a person or persons. This could be you. You could be a catalyst. You could help people. The opposite of a catalyst is an inhibitor. These are actions that fail to support work or actively hinder the work. So that's what an inhibitor is. So you could have an inhibiting action by tell people, you're no good, I'm going to fire you. That's going to inhibit creativity. Or perhaps there's bad weather, they miss a flight. That's going to inhibit their ability to work because they can't come to work. Now, you can also do nourishing, which are events that would be like showing respect or words of encouragement. So you can be a nourisher, or you can be a toxin, which is the opposite. These would be discouraging words or undermining events, saying mean things to people. Now, looking back on a good day, catalysts by 7 to 1, doing things that supported work, like helping your coworkers, happened 7 times more likely than something that was an inhibitor, something that would hinder work, something like interruptions or people taking phone calls during work. So 7 to 1, there's more catalysts on a good day. A big one on a good day is nourishment. By over 25 to 1, there was more nourishment, respect to the coworker, encouraging words outweighed toxicity, which would be discouraging words, discouraging comments, people not getting along. So you see how strong and important it is to have nourishment, catalysts, and progress to make a good day, and you have power over that. Now, what does a bad day look like? Pretty much the opposite. The setbacks are going to outweigh the progress by about 2 to 1. So that makes sense. That's what is the definition of a bad day. You have a setback. Also, by over 3 to 1, there were more inhibitors, things that hindered work like interruptions versus catalysts, something that would support like work from another person. So you see we have 3 to 1 inhibitors to work. And then on 4 to 1, we have more toxicity to versus nourishment. So we have 4 times as many discouraging comments or nasty comments or fights at the office versus nourishing comments or nourishing actions like words of encouragement. Now, progress and setbacks are going to impact all 3 measures of work life. So let's take a look at progress days on the left. Positive emotions on a progress day, you're going to be looking at things like joy, warmth, and pride. But on a setback day, the emotions are going to be frustration, fear, and sadness. On a high progress day, motivation, employees are going to be interested in and enjoy the work. But when they're unmotivated on a setback day, there's going to be less internal motivation. They're not even going to be motivated by outside recognition because they're in a bad mood. They'll be apathetic, and they're even going to be disinclined to work at all. On a progress day with perceptions, they're going to see the challenges positively. They're going to view team members as being supportive. They're going to report more positive coworker interaction. But on a setback day, their perceptions are the opposite. They have less positive challenge in work. They feel that they have less freedom to do their work. They say that they have insufficient resources to carry out their work. And they view team members and supervisors as less supportive. So again, it's a mirror image. Now, minor milestones are really important. Major breakthroughs and long-term goal achievements, amazing, but it's rare. It doesn't happen every day. But those small wins can boost that inner work life tremendously, and that's where we're going to be focusing today. The interesting thing is that humans actually have outsized positive reactions to certain events. Now, most progress is a minor step forward, but in the majority of the diary entries, minor progress was actually accompanied by outside positive reaction. People got super excited over small things. 28% of incidents in the diaries that had minor progress actually had major impact on how they felt about it. So it's a big deal. You know, because inner work life has such a potent effect on creativity and productivity, and because those small steps forward, shared by many, can accumulate into excellent execution. So progress events that go unnoticed are critical to overall performance of all organizations. So it's really important that as you, a manager, that you acknowledge the small wins because your workers might not. Now there's the flip side. Those small losses can have an extremely negative impact on worker life. Negative events have more impact than positive. So the negative is stronger than the positive. So it's imperative that you as a manager minimize any daily hassles that people see. Now on progress and meaningful work, the word meaningful is really important. The progress must be work that feels meaningful to the worker. So you have to make sure that they feel that they're meaningful. In 1983, Steve Jobs actually tried to get the CEO of Pepsi to work for him, and the CEO turned him down. But this is what Steve Jobs said in response. Do you want to spend the rest of your life selling sugared water, or do you want a chance to change the world? So what he was doing was very important. He was leveraging potent psychological forces. And what are those? There's a potent force with human beings. We have a deep-seated desire to do meaningful work. We want our lives to matter. You, as a manager, can make sure that employees feel that they matter. Now, less profound work is important at all because we're not all discovering new vaccines or new inventions. A lot of us we're doing work that isn't completely profound to the world, but it could be profound to us. So you don't need to save the world, but if the worker feels that their contribution adds value to something important in society, that can motivate them. So make sure you find that value to society in the work. And make the benefit clear. It's you, the manager's job, to make sure the worker sees how their efforts are important and meaningful. Now, also as a manager, we need to avoid negating the value of a worker's efforts. So we don't want to be saying negative things to them. So the manager's toolkit is to create daily progress through catalysts and nourishers. So catalysts, again, are actions that we as managers can do to support work. So we can do 6 things. We can set clear goals, we can allow autonomy, provide necessary resources, help them if they need help. We can learn from problems and successes, and we can also allow a free exchange of ideas. We can also avoid the flip side. We can avoid being an inhibitor, which are actions that hinder the work. So we can avoid failing to provide support, and we can avoid actively interfering with their work and not helping at the same time. So here are the impact of catalysts. When the workers realize that they have clear and meaningful goals, sufficient resources, and helpful colleagues, what they get is an immediate emotional boost. They know they're getting help. They're getting motivated to do a great job. And then they're going to have an improved perception of work and the organization. So helping them not only helps them, but it helps them have a better perception of the organization. Now let's look at nourishers. So those are acts of interpersonal support. This is where you respect someone, you recognize them for something, you give them encouragement, give them emotional comfort, give them some opportunities for affiliation. And be sure to avoid the opposite, which would be disrespect, discouragement, disregarding their emotions, or any kind of interpersonal conflict. So if any of these words are making you uncomfortable, we all do this, but we want to make sure that we don't bring toxicity into the workplace. Now, the signals that a manager gives, when a manager gives workers the resources they need, it signals that the work that they are doing is important. Also, when a manager recognizes people for the work that they do, it signals that they're important to the organization. So what you do actually can send off a different signal that has a different meaning, and they both can be positive. Now, obviously, nourishers and catalysts are common sense, but managers frequently forget to use them. So very important, keep your emotions under control. Be consistent. You don't want to be the one that's really moody. We don't know if the manager's in a good mood or a bad mood today. Be consistent. Do not attack your employees when you are frustrated. Now, let's meet Jane. Jane is a model manager, and the goal in her organization is to develop a safe chemical for multi-use in consumer products. But here are her challenges. She has confusing goals, top management shifting around, people are coming and going. She gets conflicting signals from management. There's wavering commitments from management. She doesn't have many resources. People are being threatened with being fired, and her customers are angry. So this is a lot of bad stuff. But here's Jane's response. She visibly removes the obstacles from the employees. She materially supports them and shows that progress. And then she also emotionally supports them. So here are 4 good management approaches that Jane is doing, and you can copy these as well. Approach number 1 is establishing a positive environment. So you deal with one event, one problem at a time. You analyze the problem. Don't blame anyone or get them in trouble for that problem. Just develop a plan to respond to it. Don't panic, don't blame, don't get emotional. And this gives people a sense of moving forward. Yes, we have a problem. Here's our plan to make it better. Approach number 2 is stay attuned to the team's everyday activities and progress. So be non-judgmental. And if you do this, employees are going to self-update their progress with you as well as share with you their setbacks. So having that non-judgmental environment is really important. Otherwise, they hide information. Approach number 3 is to target support according to recent events in the team and the product and the project. So anticipate each day what kind of intervention you can use. Do you need to add a catalyst? Do you need to remove an inhibitor? Do you need to add some nourishment, remove a toxin? If you don't know what they need, just simply ask your workers. And approach number 4 is to be a resource, not a micromanager. So check in with workers to see how they're doing, but don't check up on them to make sure they're not goofing off. And then avoid, of course, the 4 micromanaging errors, which is 1, failing to give autonomy and dictating every move. 2, asking about their work but not giving them any help. 3, blaming them for things. And 4, hoarding information like a secret weapon. That's a motivation killer. And workers will withhold information from you if you withhold it from them. So what we're looking for is the progress loop, that if inner work drives performance and good performance drives good inner work, You want to support the people in their daily progress and meaningful work. And improving the inner life work balance of the employee improves the organization's long-term progress. So you have a lot of impact here. And here's some more good news for you as managers. You don't have to read the employee's mind. You don't have to manipulate them and come up with complicated incentive schemes. Just keep them motivated and happy with basic respect and consideration. And the end result is that the employees will love their job and they're going to love you at the same time. Now, here's the checklist that I spoke about earlier. This is your daily progress checklist as a manager. So you would go through this form and, for example, for progress, which one or two events today indicated either a small win or a possible breakthrough, and just write those out. Same thing for setbacks. Just write back one or two setbacks, if any, on the day. And then take a look at the catalysts. Did the team have any clear short and long-term goals for meaningful work? Did they have sufficient time to focus on meaningful work? So look through this worksheet every day, and this is going to keep you in line to make sure that you are making progress, you're dealing with setbacks, you're putting in those catalysts, you're trying to remove inhibitors. And here's the nourishment and toxicity form. So again, you just work through this, and then at the end, you look at the inner work life. Did I see any indications of the quality of my subordinates' inner work lives today? Anything on emotions or motivation? What can you do tomorrow to eliminate inhibitors and toxins? Again, it's all common sense, but a lot of people forget to do this, which is why we created the checklist. And no surprise, this is your 20-minute homework. Complete the daily progress checklist. So print out the form, and if you're a manager of a team, complete the checklist as is, just for today. If you're managed by someone, then complete the checklist and pretend that you're the manager. You work on the team, you see what goes on, so you can check and fill out the form on how the day worked. Now, the work can remain anonymous, and it's okay to change those names, but it's really important for you to fill out the checklist. This is going to keep you on track online on a daily basis, and you'll start to get into the habit of seeing it's really important to do these things every day. It's also important not to bring in that toxicity. So this is going to make you an amazing manager. People are going to love you, your team is going to perform, and you're going to hit those long-term goals. So thanks for coming to today's lesson, and I will see you next time. Take care.